Welcome to 284 Media's Just for the Record. I am Jacko Wooding, and today I am joined by at-large Representative and Minister for Education, Youth Affairs and Sports, Honorable Sharie DeCastro. She's seeking re-election in this general election, so we discuss that bit after a quick commercial break.
There are many ways to enjoy life, like so many ways to count on Popular.
Rashford made it. Manchester United have come from behind to lead.
At home or on the go, watch CCT Live. Download our app and carry your favorite TV shows, news, or live sports anywhere you go. Visit cctvvi.com/live, select your package, and tune in.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Welcome back, and thank you so much for staying with us. And of course, Honorable DeCastro, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Now, how about you set the stage for us? Walk me through your educational background and your professional career.
So I started school right here in the Virgin Islands at the Isabella Morris Primary School. Went on to the then BVI High School, now Elmore Style High School. I went on to the H. Lowry South Community College, and then on to Texas Christian University, where I did my degree in English education. Upon returning home, I went straight into the classroom at my alma mater, the Elmore Style High School, and I taught English and literature for a few years before starting my own business, Right to Read, which was an after-school program as well as Easter summer breaks, where young people came in, and literacy was the aim, because I realized while I was teaching that some of my students had literacy gaps. And so I wanted to ensure that through our remediation and intervention, they had the opportunity to get up to their reading levels and thus be able to truly read and comprehend the material that they were doing in school.
All right. And what about your professional career?
So, of course, after that, in 2015, I ran for election. At that point, I was unsuccessful, but I returned in 2019 and sought election again, and I won at that point, at which I was humbly given the opportunity by the people of this territory to be a member of the 4th House of Assembly of the Virgin Islands. And it's been an amazing journey, of course, not without challenges, but it's been really humbling and a blessing to be able to serve the people of this territory.
All right. Now, what was that final push that made you decide it was time for you to go into politics?
Really, teaching on the secondary level, I realized that there was real urgent need for policy change. Oftentimes as educators, you sit in a classroom and you know the content, you know the change that's needed, but the room in terms of potentially the curriculum or in terms of the scheduling or even the course offerings is just not there for you to be able to really effect the change in the way that you want. Because you don't just want to light your own room, right? As an educator, you want to see impact and change across the territory. And so I believe that it was important to get into the race on the policy level, because a legislator's job is policy and legislation. And I'm happy that I've gotten the opportunity to be able to drive change in that area.
All right. Now, we've heard you say it many times. You're moving full steam ahead with education in the Virgin Islands. What would you say have been your greatest achievements throughout your tenure?
I think just the reality of seeking to reimagine education. What exactly should education look like in the 21st century? And I believe for a very long time we've been doing the chalk and talk, the pen and paper. But when we look at the type of young people that we have, it really demands a different type of setting, a different type of ethos and environment in the classroom. And in order to do that, reformation is necessary, change is necessary in terms of the curriculum, in terms of the subject offering, in terms of the resources that teachers have available to them to be able to really deliver instruction in an effective way. And of course, also in terms of the physical environment, the infrastructure that we put our people in. So those are the 3 areas that I've been focusing on: infrastructure, professional development, and resources. And I came to that conclusion because I met with the teachers. We had stakeholder meetings with just about every sector of our education population, from policymakers in the ministry straight to our special ed teachers or counselors or education officers or teachers. And so we were able to dialogue. And while we know that there were so many problems, I asked them, what are the top 3 things? There may be 30, but what are the top 3 things that you want us to tackle over the next few months? And we collectively agreed that those things would be the impetus by which we could begin the change that we wanted to see.
All right. Now, we know sometimes things don't go according to plan. You've been able to do a lot, but what are some areas where you felt you may have fallen short?
Really, I think the legislative side. We've done a lot of policy work. We've drafted new policy, and we've also amended policy. But in terms of being able to amend the Education Act, we did do the requisite work to be able to see the amendments that we want. But the House was dissolved before we got the opportunity to actually be able to table it in the House. So I think that would be the one thing that I wish I had more time to do. But if and when, hopefully given the opportunity, we'll move full steam ahead with getting that done.
All right. What other areas would you like to hit the pavement running with, should you be reelected? Well,
really, it's now about implementation. We've already started it, but a lot of it is basically in phase, in progress, right? Just in a few weeks, once the school term reopens, the Trinity term, we're going to have Innovation Hour in some of our schools. And what is that? It means that we're seeking to create an opportunity, 1 hour a week, where young people actually get the opportunity to think critically, to problem solve, to create, to innovate, to communicate, to collaborate. And it really speaks to the whole STEAM experience, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, where we put them in an environment where they're able to do, where they're able to be, and where they're able to use their skills to make something or create something through programming, coding, AI, just project-based and experiential learning, because we believe that it is through that experience that young people are actually able to not just regurgitate content, but to be able to internalize it and build the requisite skills that are needed to make those skills transferable, not just to school environment, but to life and to college and the workforce eventually.
And where would you like to see the Virgin Islands in the next 5 to 10 years?
That's a good question. I would say, I think that I would love to see us at a place where we take ownership of our economy in terms of, I believe firmly that the impact of education on the economy is great. And I believe that there's an opportunity for diversification, an opportunity for building it up. But I believe the only way that our people will be at the forefront of that opportunity and change is if through our education system, we provide them with the requisite skills for them to be able to build on, to be literally at the front row and the front seat when those opportunities come. Because we could diversify, but if we don't have our curriculum in our schools that speaks to delivering the skill sets that would put you in a position to be able to bring and be that change in the industry that we're creating, then we're creating an industry not for our people, but for potentially others who would be able to be at the forefront of that. So I think we have to shift and change the way we view education, because I believe it's a tool for innovation and a tool for creation, and really the impetus by which I believe we can go from strength to strength in terms of our economy.
All right. Now, of course, very important to pursuing a future in any country is the youth. So
Yes.
in what areas do you believe that there is a need for the most attention in terms of developing the youth of the Virgin Islands?
I think really we have to go back to what worked before. When I went to school, there was an environment, as an example, for after-school programs funded by the government. And I believe that shifted a few years ago when the youth policy came into being, and the Department of the Youth Affairs and Sports kind of shifted its mandate in terms of the age group that they were really seeking to provide programming for. But I believe the Ministry of Education at large has a mandate to ensure that through, as an example, after-school programs and the Easter and summer programs that we used to put on, that we reignite them so that young people have an opportunity after school to be challenged. Oftentimes in that environment, you're unchallenged, you're unattended, and it creates an opportunity really for you to get in situations that you ordinarily would not be in had you had an opportunity to be in a space of learning and fun. And so I believe there's an opportunity there for us to reignite those after-school programs. And you really get an opportunity to do things that you won't get to do in the classroom, to build skills that you ordinarily may not be able to access at school. And I believe they're a critical part of us being able to build back that village. I think we have to reintroduce the village. It still takes a village. And I believe through the ministry and through partnership with the youth organizations, with the churches, with community-minded organizations, we'll be able to truly create spaces again where our young people can feel safe, but where they can also grow and develop.
All right. Now let's take a bit of a step outside of your ministry. Of course, you're an at-large representative. So what are some areas in the community that you would like to see the next government address? Stay tuned for more Just for the Record after these messages.
Yo, everything good, Dad?
Aye. This thing got me one way, Daddy.
What you mean?
Ever since I hook up with this thing, can't eat, I can't sleep. This is the first thing I touch it when I reach home.
What you really? Hey, this ain't like you, you know.
Dad, this thing got me staying home. Keeping out that trouble me.
Wow. What your name is?
Shit. I talking about my CCT life.
Don't worry about missing your favorite series, sports, news, and local programming. Come to CCT today and sign up for CCT Live to access over 80 channels. CCT Live. Bring it home.
1 month free trial turn into 5. 5 months turn into, well, you know I huff. I watching ball. I been watching football. Dad, Nickelodeon, Paw Patrol. I am hooked. Hook, I tell you.
So you're saying I can ask this cat any question?
The cat is connected to the computer. You just type in the question, it will read his mind. There the answer comes.
You're the man! I've been looking for this for weeks.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Now let's take a bit of a step outside of your ministry. Of course, you're an at-large representative. So what are some areas in the community that you would like to see the next government address?
Of course, firstly, it would have to be infrastructure. Of course, we know that we have significant challenges with our infrastructure, and we have to seek to provide the requisite funding upfront to be able to mitigate and meet those challenges. And we have to do it in a way where we use the expertise of engineers to really do it once and do it right. I think that's fundamentally what we have to really look to. But that's why I always say that no matter what area I speak to, it still boils back down to education. Because if my education system can birth civil engineers, road engineers, and so forth, then I would be able to see that competency in the public works department, in the water and sewage department. But of course, it would have to be an environment where our young people feel that they'll be compensated for the work that they do. And oftentimes in those technical fields, currently within the ministry, we have significant challenges being able in the public sector to pay those skill sets in the way that they should be. So really, I would start with the roads. And of course, healthcare. If you're not a healthy being, you can't truly fulfill your purpose. And I believe we have to pay keen attention to our healthcare system and structure, and even really relook the NHI system to be able to ensure that it facilitates an opportunity for access to healthcare for every single person with parity. So those two areas, of course, there's so much more I could elaborate on. I believe another area of focus would have to be really how we consider business development, especially small business. I have so many young people who are interested in becoming entrepreneurs, and I believe we have to move forward swiftly with the institution of the Innovative Business Lab as an example, which seeks to be a creative space where these young people could have the opportunity through collaboration and through support to be able to build the requisite components that would assist them. They may have a dream, they may have a passion, but how do we turn it into a business? And so I believe creating that kind of environment and that space where there's an opportunity to develop yourself, your business, it only adds to the territory, because small businesses genuinely really drives the Virgin Islands economy.
All right. Now, you did mention fulfilling one's purpose. What would you say is your purpose in life, and how does that align with politics?
So I could sum up my purpose in a few words. My purpose, I believe, is to make a difference. From when I was Miss BVI in 2012, it was the impetus and the platform and the ending of my talent. And it was because when I was a teacher, my students used to ask me every day, Miss DeCastro, why are you here? We here teachers don't make money. And I remember saying to them very eloquently and clearly, I think I'm here to do a bit more than that. Don't get me wrong. I'm fully supportive of teachers being compensated in the way that they should be because of the difference that they make. But when I consider what I make, I believe ultimately I make children believe that winning means you're willing to go longer, work harder, and give more than anything and anyone else. You know, I make children uncomfortable with being average. And I encourage them to swim outside of their comfort zones to catch the waves that'll change their life. So if you ask me what my purpose is or how much I make, ultimately my singular aim is to make a difference in any space, in any room, in any environment that I enter into.
All right. Now let's start talking about some topical issues in the territory. Of course, the COI is still at the forefront of a lot of people's minds.
Yes.
Do you believe that the findings of that report are a fair representation of what's been going on in the Virgin Islands in recent years?
I believe it definitely depicts some realities. I believe there's some opportunity to create a bit more of a balance in terms of what I would believe to be the sequence of events that would have led us to this point. But I believe holistically and wholeheartedly that it was necessary to be able to push us into a season of change, to really reconsider our system and our structures to really support our ultimate goal. And as a new politician coming in, I really had to really consider the systems and the structures. And if we're honest, there is room for growth and development. And I think it will only be for the betterment of ministers, of elected officials to really be able to get the structure right. Because the type of red tape, the type of blockage that exists, it can be remedied, but we have to be able to get uncomfortable because yes, it's been like this for a long time, but that doesn't mean it's not an opportunity for change. So I believe the COI has created an opportunity for us to get some things right that we've been getting wrong for quite a long time. It's unfortunate that it had to be prompted by that, but sometimes that's the way it is. So I'm really honestly excited because I believe in systems, structures, processes, planning, that type of stuff. And I believe the type of reformation that we're doing through the COI actually gives us an opportunity to build on that. And ultimately, I believe the impact will be sound because we would have had a real foundation to really execute the type of change that we want to see.
All right. Now, you did mention the change we want to see. Do you think it's realistic for one to believe that a single sitting government will be able to implement, well, not only implement the 48 recommendations, but bring about the change that's expected to come from them?
I believe it's something that would have to happen over a period of time. And if you consider the year that this coalition government would have had to do it, I think we've been able to do a lot in a short period of time. Of course, there's so much left to be done. And I think that's the impetus behind us and me seeking re-election, to really continue to be a part of that change. And I believe as a young person coming into the system, I believe that fundamentally, right, life begins at the end of your comfort zone. And I honestly think systematically we've been too comfortable. So the discomfort for me is, I like it because I believe that's the reality of how change will happen, right? So I'm excited about getting another opportunity if the people so desire, and I hope that they do, so that we could continue that reformation and change, because I believe ultimately that is what will cement our legacy moving forward.
All right, another topical issue in the territory right now, so much so the Premier would have spoken about taking the territory to its first reformation to decide on this issue. Of course, that's same-sex marriage. What are your views in that regard?
So I believe that using that mechanism of a referendum is very important. I don't believe that 13 individuals in the House of Assembly should decide the fate of a territory on any subject, in any area, because I believe we are representatives of people. And I believe the referendum gives us an opportunity to go to the people and really have dialogue, and most importantly, present the information so people could make an informed decision. Because on the topic, there are various areas and opportunities that we could seek to consider on the way forward. It's not just one or the other. And I believe through the legal means, as we see in other even overseas territories, I believe there's a mechanism to create some balance. Because of course, you know, it's a very challenging topic and conversation to have. But I believe ultimately individuals should feel secure in their own innate position on something in terms of where they see their life, who they see it with. And so my personal opinion would be that we engage in the conversation with the people and we seek to come to a conclusion and a common ground that would take everybody's position into consideration. And from what I understand, that is highly possible once the information is given and we're able to really dialogue and understand the various options that we have.
Right. Now, would you be in favor of the establishment of a cannabis industry in the territory?
I think that's something that requires some dialogue, right? Because I think there are various concerns, let's say, regarding a potential drive or option to go that route, right? I think we have to weigh the opportunities, weigh the pros and the cons, and see whether our environment, our physical environment, would allow for growth and development of an industry like that to the point where we could see significant profit. I would not at this point say that I'm completely against it, but I believe I would need to get some more information regarding the real potential outcome and output to weigh it against potential other options that we may be more capable of considering that may have a better financial impact in terms of a benefit to the territory than cannabis.
All right. Do you believe it's the right time now for the Virgin Islands to be pursuing independence?
I think it's the right time to start talking about it. Independence isn't a one or two step process. It's a long process, but we could never begin the process, or we cannot end the process if we don't begin it. And I think in order for us to even get to that point, we have to restore confidence in leadership. I think we're at a critical point in our territory where unfortunately our people do not believe in their leaders in the way that I believe they should. And that's the onus and the responsibility is not on them. I think it's on us as leaders to really, through our actions, or words or deeds, that we really seek to reshape what people see when they see a politician. I honestly don't like the word politician. I prefer the word representative. But I believe the historical data would prove some of the reservations that our people have correct. But I believe that if we consider our systematic changes and processes, it then creates an opportunity for us to not be involved in some of the areas that our people have concerns about, because realistically, if we're honest, we shouldn't be involved in some of those areas in the first place. And I've personally sought to see how I ensure that I stay in my lane. I firmly believe in staying in my lane. And when I understand what my role is, I seek to see how I could do it to the best of my ability. I'm not in any way perfect. I mean, of course, once you're in a new situation, you have to grow and you have to learn. But it is my hope that we could restore confidence in leadership, which I believe would get us on the right path to be able to consider independence, because I believe it's our ultimate goal. Self-determination is where we must be. But I believe we have to do a lot of work. We have to dig deep, and we have to really reconsider our approach as leaders, first and foremost, to be able to drive the systematic and governmental change that is necessary to stand on your own as an independent nation.
What are your views on the cost of living in the territory? Stay tuned for more Just for the Record after these messages.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got here. My name is Kamal Haines. Most of you know me from 284 News, but now you get to see me in a different light on my very own show called Health is Wealth. We have Joel Turnbull.
I don't want you to arch your back when you're pulling down.
Milton McLean.
First of all, right, your footwork.
Stephen Payne.
That was a 9 out of 10. I know you got the service down pat.
Steve Augustine.
You did a pretty hard workout today, so perhaps...
And as you can see, it's actually
you're feeling it.
Alonzo Boynes.
Taekwondo.
Adam Murrows.
I'll speak as if you're an absolute beginner.
I am an absolute beginner.
You are an absolute beginner.
And Seth Graham.
It bites.
It will bite.
Get your water, get your fruits and veggies, and experience a wealth of knowledge about getting healthy.
Today, I am doing cobble treatments with Beyond the Reef. Today, we are doing shark research. So today, we are doing whale research with Beyond the Reef. And wherever I go, I take CCT with me because my life is unlimited.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. What are your views on the cost of living in the territory?
So I believe the cost of living is definitely high, and I believe that's why it's absolutely important for us to really consider the minimum wage. We have to reconsider it very strongly, and it's something that this government has committed to do once re-elected. But also the review of salaries. We're currently going through salary review in the public service, and it's extremely important because, you know, fundamentally, if all people are not in a position where they're able to pay their bills, where they're able to feed their families, then what are we really doing? The impact and the change of, you know, being a representative must seek to make your people better off than when you were there. And I believe that there are mechanisms and ways that we could do this. I think we just have to focus in, do the requisite work that's needed to be able to fully understand exactly, you know, where we raise the minimum wage to and where salaries are raised to, so that ultimately it will be to the benefit of the people. Once people are happy, once people are being paid properly, the output that we get in the system is better anyhow. So I think we're on the right path in reconsidering the salary review, but I believe the next step is really the minimum wage so that the entire territory is able to benefit from the impact of raise in the minimum wage, which ultimately will be able to assist persons in being able to cover their bills and live a meaningful life a lot better.
All right. Do you think it will also be worthwhile to possibly explore investing a bit more in the agricultural industry so that the territory can make a lot more of its own food?
Most definitely. It's the healthier option. And I believe there's proof of that, you know. Sitting here, hearing you ask the question, the first thing that popped into my mind was my grandfather. My grandfather lived to the age of 102. He recently passed not too long ago. And I believe he was a fisherman, he was a farmer. He ate from the ground and he ate from the sea. And I believe that that's the true essence of why he lived that long in terms of, you know, his physical health. And I believe we have done it in the past. I believe, yes, through development, we've, you know, sought out various areas of diversification. But if we're really going to build ourselves and consider the potential chaos that we've experienced through hurricanes, through pandemics, and the possibility of not being able to have direct access to food, it behooves us to be in a position where we fully ensure that our agricultural sector is up and running. And as an example of that, even one of the areas that we are currently seeking to introduce in our technical program or TVET program is agricultural science. And it's because we believe that we have to get our young people engaged in the industry so that we have individuals ready and able to be able to carry forward the mandate of agriculture in the Virgin Islands.
All right. Now, you did mention health, and that really just brought up the issue of the Popwood Pond situation for me. So what are your views on that situation?
I think we just have to fund the incinerator in a way and consider waste management in a way that is healthy to our people. It will require significant seed funding, and I think we've been dealing with this matter for too long. I think we have to just bite the bullet, figure out what the best option is and seek to fund it so that our people are in a better and a healthier environment. I think that's where it begins and that's where it ends.
All right. Now, you did mention funding. A lot of the time in the territory, there's discussions going on within the community, I should say, that there's a lot to be done, but the government keeps saying that there is no money. Following the release of the COI and the audits, of course, that discussion has kind of shifted to saying that, okay, maybe the money is there, but it's being misused. What are your views on that situation? Do you believe it's an absence of funds or a misuse of funds or a combination of both?
I think we have to prioritize. That's how I'll answer that. And I believe there are systems and processes in government that allows you the ability to be able to consider what you want your budget to look like. And it's a lengthy process. And it changes. You go through multiple versions of the budget before you reach the final one that we pass in the House of Assembly. And I think while we have the internal discussions within ministries, within Standing Finance, which is the committee of the House, we have to start to have some public dialogue and engage the public to really have a conversation about what we believe our priorities to be. And I think we can't just have the conversations when the budget has already passed. It has to happen before. And I believe there's room for us to, with what we have, be able to do more. I think, of course, it's a competition for funding. The Ministry of Education, has about 13% of the annual budget. And of course, we need more. If we're going to impact change in the way that we want to, we want more, but we also have to realize that there are other ministries competing as well. But I believe that definitely it's a matter of prioritization because there is funding that could be tapped into, that could be used for specific purposes. But I believe ultimately we have to decide what our priorities are. It's like what I did with the teachers, right? There are 30 things that need to fix, but we really can't fix all 30 of them. What are the top 3, the top 5, the top 10 that we collectively agree as a territory that if we see these things change, then at least we'll feel like, so we're moving forward. And I think that's the approach that we would need to take if we really want to build public collaborative consensus on where the territory is going.
All right. Recently, there have been calls from the community also for there to be greater investment recognition of local athletes who are making a great name for the BVI on the international stage. In what ways would you seek to meet that demand should you be re-elected? So
the good thing is we've already started. I believe any change has to take place through participation with the people who are on the ground every day. And so I've had stakeholder consultations with all sporting federations and associations, and we've come up with our priority areas as well to be able to agree on the way forward. And the 3 areas that we agreed on was investment in infrastructure, grassroots programs, as well as funding to support the initiatives of the federations and associations. And an example of that, I believe there has not been a real mechanism to be able to substantially, annually, be able to contribute to sporting organizations. One of the things that I just did in the ministry with my team is that we had conversations with the federations and we requested that they submit an annual budget so that the government could have an understanding of your annual expenses, the travel, what does it take in terms of treatment, in terms of training for our athletes. And the BV Athletics Association has been the first organization that has submitted that report to the government. And after they submitted it, we were able to create a new mechanism within the budget to be able to give an annual contribution to sporting organizations. And just, I believe it was a week or 2 weeks ago, I was able to give them, they requested $50,000 as an annual contribution. And through that mechanism that we just created in the supplemental appropriation, I was able to give them that $50,000 on behalf of the government of the Virgin Islands. And I believe that's the approach, right? Because they want to do things, they don't know where the funding will come from. And I believe if we could build that collaboration and continue to grow it from strength to strength, we're currently in discussions with other associations and federations, including the BVIOC, to see how we could continue to support developmental athletes as well as elite athletes in a very systematic and strong way. And you'll actually be hearing some announcements very soon on the way forward with that.
All right. Now, this issue isn't only present in the BVI. I could say across the Caribbean, across the world most likely, there is a trend where young people don't usually come out to vote because they feel like, or I should say we feel like, it's not going to enact any real change. So in what ways, as the Minister for Education, as a member of the community, are you encouraging young people to exercise their democratic rights?
Really, that's a tough one, right? And it boils back to what we were speaking about earlier, where, you know, if people don't really feel a part of the process, it becomes a bit questionable about, you know, you keep coming back to me every 4 years and you keep asking me for my vote, but how am I after that point, after the point of re-election? How do you involve me in the process? And I believe we have to do a lot more through the government process, once elected, to create mechanisms, one, for awareness, two, for community involvement and engagement through creative ways. We've been doing community meetings, but I don't know how effective they are. We have to use maybe potentially technology and other means to see how we could attract young people and make them a part of the conversation and give them a seat at the table. And as a young person myself, I can say very clearly, it's challenging to get a seat. But even when you get the seat, it's extremely challenging to be considered in the fullness of what you believe to be your contribution. And I believe that that is what has been my journey. And I believe that we have an opportunity through the mechanism of politics to create more space for young people to be involved through various means, from committees and boards to youth parliament to even potentially having a seat at the table just like me. I encourage every young person to consider the opportunity of politics, because the more of us that are in politics, the more our views are represented and the more we could see actionable change. Not change that is separate from us, but change that involves us, because our views are being represented based on the portion of persons that are in the House that look just like us, that speak and think just like us.
All right, now we're coming to the end of our interview, but we can't wrap things up without just asking you plainly, why do you believe that your representation is what the people of the Virgin Islands need right now?
So I'll put it this way. In the middle of chaos, I got an opportunity of a lifetime to really impact this territory in a way that I believe to be my purpose and something I've been passionate about all my life. Education, youth, and sports. And I got into the ministry, and for the last 11 months, every waking hour, every minute, every second, I've used it to be able to be a part of the change that I believe is needed in this territory. And I would love the opportunity to continue to change. We've seen the impact of a lot of the changes that we've been able to make in a short period of time. But I believe, of course, it takes a bit more time to see the development and the implementation and even the potential opportunity to really evaluate and maybe shift and change based on certain outcomes that present itself over time. So we're moving full steam ahead, and I'm hoping that I get the opportunity to continue moving because I believe that we are at a prime point to continue to reimagine education, youth, and sport in the territory so that we could ultimately see its impact and purpose on our economy.
All right. Thank you so much for your time today, Honorable DeCastro. I really do hope that the viewers find this information valuable to their experience in the 2023 general election.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an interesting conversation, and I am very appreciative of the opportunity.
I'm Jacka Wooding, and this has been Just for the Record.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got here. My name is Kamal Haines. Most of you know me from 284 News, but now you get to see me in a different light on my very own show called Health is Wealth. We have Joel Turnbull.
I don't want you to arch your back when you're pulling down.
Milton McLean.
First of all, right, your footwork.
Stephen Payne.
That was a 9 out of 10. I know you got the service down pat.
Steve Augustine.
You did a pretty hard workout today, so perhaps...
And as you can see, it's actually
you're feeling it.
Alonzo Boynes.
Taekwondo.
Adam Murrows.
I'll speak as if you're an absolute beginner.
I am an absolute beginner.
You are an absolute beginner.
And Seth Graham.
It bites.
It will bite.
Get your water, get your fruits and veggies, and experience a wealth of knowledge about getting healthy.